Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, I'm the pastor here, and it is so good to be with you this evening. Man, we love being with you every Saturday night, especially when we're in person. But I don't know about y'all. Over the past couple of weeks, Tammy and I talk about it every Saturday. Tonight we get to do our thing and be with some people. So it's so good to see you. This is, to remind you, Free is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. Spiritual refugees, those are the ones who, maybe it's you. You feel like you've been kicked around by religion. You've been told somewhere along the way that you don't belong with God. Here we say you absolutely belong. So if you identify as a spiritual refugee, we're glad you're here. We call this thing Free because all the things that set us free, grace, compassion, love, forgiveness, these are the things that are so freely given by God. So welcome to Free this evening. And I know we have people tuning in from all over the country. Even we had people from all over the world last week. So if you're joining us from another country, welcome. If you're joining us from another state, if you're outside of Colorado, welcome. We're glad you're here. I invite you to, if you're watching this live video, which if you're on right now, you are, hit the share button. Share this video so others can join in to spread the message of hope and love and to extend our reach, to be a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees, to provide space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. That's what we're about here at Free. All right, y'all, I want to throw it over to Kelly. She is one of our members here at Free. She's also on our home team here at Free, which means she leads the way in hospitality and welcoming people and making sure when you all walk in, you feel a sense of home, because we hear that all the time here. When people walk into Free, you feel like it's home. So we created the home team. Kelly is part of this home team, and she's going to tell you what's coming up here at Free.
Hey, it's Colleen. How are you guys? What an awesome way to connect with each other during this crazy time. Free is just doing an awesome job. I'm so excited to be a part of it. So listen, I want to share some announcements with you this week. We're going to keep connecting at Free. So there's an awesome 12-step meeting at 5 p.m. on Saturdays, and we are moving it to 12 o'clock every day. Now this meeting includes all A's. Whether you're in Al-Anon, whether you're in Alcoholics Anonymous, whether you're in Cocaine Anonymous, join us. Anyone with a spiritual desire to join our meetings, come on every day at 12 o'clock, and you can join us at 12stepfellowship.com. Also, another exciting meeting that we're adding here at Free to connect everyone together during this time is a CA meeting. And the CA meeting is at Cocaine Anonymous. But you don't have to be a cocaine addict in recovery to join us. You can be in any kind of stage of recovery, any kind of drug of choice, whatever your recovery is about. Come join us for CA meetings every day at 2 p.m. Again, that is at 12stepfellowship.com. Also, during this high anxiety time, we know it's hard to connect. However, online, we are growing exponentially. I can't imagine 12 years ago or 10 years ago, if this had happened for addicts, loved ones of addicts, spiritual refugees all over, how would we connect? This is a really cool thing that we have going on here online. So, we're talking about April 8th at 7 p.m. open mic night. Bring your talent from your living room or wherever you're sitting and come join us for open mic night. We'll have more information on this. Check out our website, our Facebook page at free.com. There's going to be a lot more information on open mic night, sober open mic night. Also, as things start to calm down, our beautiful barista, Tammy, will be roasting her amazing coffee once again. And remember, 100% of the proceeds go directly back to Free to help loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. It goes right back into Free, every penny. Great coffee. And I know we have people tuning in from all over, as Ryan said, all over the country, all over the world. Please make sure you like our Facebook page. Go to Free, and don't forget to like us. So excited to be here tonight and be a part of Free. So glad we can join together and recover together during this difficult time. And back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, as Kelly just mentioned, we do keep the Facebook page up to date. So go to the Free page, hit the like button. We do keep things up to date there, as well as our website, freespiritualcommunity.com. And, since we can't be meeting in person and have these in-person gatherings, it's how we're staying connected right now. It's how we've always stayed connected, one of the ways we've stayed connected, but especially during this time where we can't see each other. And it's why we're with you tonight, again, virtually, and we're going to do this thing as long as we need to do that to do our part to create some healing in the world. So, again, glad you're here. I want to give you a little rundown of what you can expect tonight, just for those of you that don't do the church thing or you're a little iffy about spiritual matters and talking about the God stuff. Here's what you can expect tonight. Welcome and announcements. I want you all in just a moment to see a video by one of our members here at Free and what she has to say about Free. And I want to talk a moment about giving. And then we're going to celebrate together because it's what we do here at Free. And after celebrations, we'll have a meditation. Then I'm going to give a message. We're going to talk about the importance of connection and relationships, the ones that are holding and sustaining us, a relationship with God and each other. And then I want to do a check-in with you. Tony G was going to share tonight. He was our guest storyteller. We just got word about 30 minutes ago. He's not able to make it. So I want to let you all know some big, exciting news in this moment. Tammy Canaday, my wife, is going to be joining us as the guest storyteller. She's a bit nervous, so I know y'all are going to show her some love. She only had 20 minutes to prepare, but we're going to have fun with this because people are always asking us Tammy's story too. They want to hear from Tammy. So she's going to be in the house in just a minute, and I'm excited about that. Then I want to check in with you all again. Then we're going to do heartaches. It's how we end things here. We do celebrations and heartaches. And then I want to pray with y'all and wrap things up. But first, before we go on, I want you to see this video from Melissa. Here's the impact Free's had in her life.
Okay, I've never spoken in front of a camera, and so what Free means to me is when my boyfriend died, literally right now, a month ago to the minute of an overdose, and he died alone, and I had nowhere to go, and this place saved my life, and I wouldn't know where to go, and it's not church, and it's not a meeting, and it's everything, and the people, and everyone's real and raw, and helped me be brave, so thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I just want to remind you, I said this last week, we are so grateful for your generous giving in this community. As you can see, we are not stopping things during this coronavirus. We're keeping going. We're going to keep going. Our doors are physically closed, literally closed, but we're just going in new directions and new ways, and it's exciting times here. And the way we keep this ministry sustained is truly by your generous giving. And let me say this, if you have a home church, don't forget about your home church. Keep giving to your home church because I promise you they need you during this time. Everyone is struggling. Every organization, every business, every church, every ministry, we do count on your giving. If you don't have a home church and you call this your church, you call this your place, your community, your tribe, whatever you call Free, we do depend on your generous giving. There's a couple of easy ways to give here. First is to text 844-648-4594, and it's really easy. When you text, all you say is, to give an example, is give 20 or give 5 or give whatever, 1,000. And then it will send you a text back with instructions on what to do. It's super simple, super secure. You can also donate on our website at freespiritualcommunity.com. If you have a smartphone, there'll be a little $sign up top of the website. If you have, I believe if you have a laptop, it just simply says donate. And again, we're so grateful for your generous giving, especially during this time when I know, y'all, I get it. Everyone is struggling. I get that. And yet we're grateful for you. We're grateful for this, for your participation in this community. All right, y'all, I want to celebrate with you guys because it's how we start our service around here at Free. We celebrate together, and something really profound happens when we're all sitting in the same space and we're celebrating together, whether that's sobriety anniversaries or birthdays or babies being born, jobs, transitions in life. There's always lots of things to celebrate. We have the heartaches, but we save them for the end. We start with celebrations. We start with celebrating together. So you're going to see a video in just a moment. You're going to see some familiar faces from this community during this 3-minute video. And during these 3 minutes, just like we did last week and the week before that, I invite you all to type in your comments. What are we celebrating? Let others see it. Let others celebrate with you. We do this stuff together, and God is in the midst of that, celebrating with us. So during this next 3 minutes, type in your comments what you're celebrating, because we want to celebrate with you. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to read some of those comments so that we can celebrate all together. Y'all got 3 minutes. Start typing. I know it can be a bit uncomfortable, but we're all in it together. We're all experiencing this new thing together. So let's celebrate.
Wanted to share a celebration today as I was thinking this morning about how lucky we all are, and especially myself this week, to be able to be a part of a community that gathers together on Saturday nights and continues our support of one another in this difficult time through our free spiritual community. I just want to thank you all. This has been an amazing week because of that.
Hi, it's Colleen, and I just am speaking from a heart of gratitude today. These are tough times we're in. However, if we weren't quarantined and we weren't going through some of this, I never would have been given the gift of spending so much time with my 15-year-old daughter. It's been a true blessing.
You guys are free, and Ryan, everybody. I'm grateful today that I'm sober because I couldn't do this for you right now. Grateful for this gift of spiritual awakening God's given me to show myself self-kindness and self-compassion because I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I'm amazing, and we can get through this together. So I'm grateful for everybody over there at Free, grateful for my family, my girlfriend, and everybody I love and care about.
Hey, Ashley here. A recovering and grateful alcoholic. I just wanted to celebrate the unity of the fellowship that we've experienced during this time, and how we have just really drawn together to extend our hand to uplift anyone who was out there in suffering.
I just wanted to take a moment and express my gratitude for the people who are working relentlessly and selflessly to support others and help other people in this time of tribulation. And I just wanted to say that it's beautiful to see people find peace and to come together as a community, even when things are hard.
Between social isolation, running homeschool, and working full-time with the rest of the family in the house, I'm both excited and challenged by the new pace of life. But I'm embracing the idea that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste.
All right, y'all, I'm gonna get a different phone. I'm gonna get Tammy's phone here because I lost your comments along the way. But welcome back. It's fun to celebrate together. Hold on, bear with me. Yeah, would you do that, Danny? Thank you. Anne Marie is celebrating 6 months sober. Way to go, Anne Marie. So awesome. Heather said, I celebrated 7 years of sobriety on March 25th. Way to go, Heather. And thank you for your message today, by the way. Chris says 4 months sober today and got to FaceTime my boys every day this past week. That's the new life you get, brother, with sobriety. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for sharing that with us, Chris. Way to go. Ben, Brother Ben, celebrating 3 years of sobriety. Lots of celebrating of sobriety. Way to go, Ben. So glad you're with us. Debbie says, celebrating my role as a mom of a daughter in sober living. She and I attended 3 AA Zoom meetings yesterday. So grateful. Debbie, thank you for sharing that with us. We're celebrating with you, and that's so awesome because, as Kelleen mentioned, the recovery world is just kind of exploding virtually right now through Zoom. How awesome is that? Do we have some others? Kim, 1 day sober, starting anew. Way to go, Kim. The first day, way to go. Marcy celebrating 46 days sober. Congratulations, Marcy. Glad you're part of this community. Darla says we celebrated our grandson Conrad's 7th birthday. Happy birthday, Conrad. Pam says, I think I have connected with more people since having stayed home than I did before the order. You know what, Pam? Lots of people have said that. So that is something to celebrate in the midst of this kind of tragic time that we're facing together. Jane, my poem, God and Government, is published in the online news source of Colorado Sun. Congratulations, Jane. And thank you for sharing your poetry with this community. MJ says, my grandson Drayden's 16th birthday. Happy birthday, Drayden. Leanne says, I have 9 residents at Aspen Cares Assisted Living, and no one is sick or has any symptoms. Praise God. Way to go. A. Scola Summers. Andrea says, we're currently ordered to shelter in place here in, I believe that's Austin, Texas. I'm grateful for family recipes. It's been a wonderful way to connect with my sons while here at home. Congratulations on that. I love seeing all the Facebook photos of you all posting pictures of what you're cooking at home with your families. How cool is that? Thank you for sharing that with us. Zoom meetings. Wendy says she's celebrating Zoom meetings and finished up my 11th step with my awesome sponsor, which has taught me to take time to quiet my head and then letting it go to my higher power. Woo, it works if you work it, doesn't it, Wendy? Thank you for sharing that with us. Landon, 3 months sober today. Congratulations, brother. So glad you're in this community. Monica says 12 days, no gambling. Thank you for sharing that with us, Monica. Congratulations to you. The 12 days, it's still brand new, and yet you're doing it. Thank you all for sharing these celebrations with us. Y'all, here's what I'd say. You are the community. So comment to each other. Let them know you are celebrating with them. Let them know you are praying with them. And we're in this together. We celebrate together. We win together. So comment on each other's posts. Let them know they're not alone. We do it together. Hey, here's what I want to do with y'all. Thank you, by the way, for so many celebrations. I know we didn't get to read all of them because there's too many, which is an awesome, awesome problem to have. But I want to bring it down with you guys a notch. You know, one of my dearest friends, her name is Gargi Agrawala. Some of you know Gargi. She's a dear friend of mine. I believe it was 2 years ago now, for a full year, we did a podcast together every week. It was called Third Way Thinking. Now, Gargi is a meditation teacher. She's a yogi. She's an author. She's a life coach. She does incredible, incredible work in the world. And we talked this week. We were talking over the phone, and she was sharing with me, and by the way, in this podcast we did, at the end of each episode, she would give a meditation. She taught me how to drop in and how to stay in. She would give these beautiful meditations that were so meaningful, so beautiful. And so she was talking to me this week, and she said, Ryan, man, this image of murmurations of birds. And if you don't know what a murmuration of birds is, and they're called, what's the name of these birds? Starlings. When you look up at the sky, and I know y'all have seen this, thousands of starlings in the sky moving together in unison, and it can kind of look like a big black cloud. And she was explaining bird murmurations to me, that these thousands of birds get together and they join in unison together. They protect one another. They look out for the 7 birds around them, and that's how they move together. And then she was telling me that after they do this form of protection and this form of movement, then they go their own separate ways back to their trees and back to their nest, back to their homes. And she said, isn't that what's happening right now? Like, we're being asked to be a murmuration, in this, not just this country, but in this world globally, to move together in unison through this coronavirus, to do things together, to do the stay-at-home order together, to social distance together. And once we're on the other side, we can again go our separate ways, land in our separate trees. As she's telling me this on the phone, I said, Gargi, what would it take to get you to do a meditation for our community at Free this week? And she said, done. So Danny filmed this meditation. Danny Colella is our digital content director. He did some magnificent work with this video, as he always does for us in our video content here. But I want y'all to quiet yourself. So if you're sitting in your living room on the couch, take a moment and get comfy. I want you to drop into this meditation from my friend Gargi for the next, I think it's about a 7-minute meditation. I want you to find some stillness and quiet, because I think this is a time in life when we need it. So get quiet, get still. Here's Gargi.
Hi, my name's Gargi Agarwala. I'm excited to bring you a few moments of peace. So let's bring into stillness all of the words and all of the information we've heard from Ryan, and bring it into our bones, into our body, to make it real for us. So I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Allow your back to be supported by your chair. Close your eyes if that's more comfortable. Allow your feet to sink into the floor. And begin to be aware of your breath. Taking a nice long inhale and a deep cleansing exhale. On every inhale, pushing the breath down into the belly as though you're filling a water bottle. And on your exhale, allowing the breath to gently float upwards, releasing and relaxing your body. Start to find a rhythm with this breath, inhaling and sending the breath deep into the belly, exhaling and letting the breath float upwards, outwards. Become aware of your surroundings. What can you feel? What can you hear? What can you smell? And finally, what can you see? What can you see with your inner eyes? So we're going to leave the place of reality and move to a place of imagination. As Einstein said, thinking will only ever get you from A to B. Imagination takes you everywhere. So I want you to imagine that you're walking down a country road. It's a beautiful, wide gravel path. You can hear your feet as you walk. It's a lovely, warm, sunny day, but the sun is beginning to set. The day is beginning to close. You're very aware of the clean air around you, the clean space around you, the sound of the birds. So much peace. As you look up into the sky, you see the many beautiful formations of the clouds, the lovely colors of the sunset. You feel like you're walking inside the most beautiful, magnificent painting. And your body is just filled with awe and reverence and peace. As you walk further down the road, you look up into the sky and you see this beautiful formation of birds, 1,000, 2,000, maybe 10,000 birds. This murmuration, this phenomenon in nature of many little things coming together as one, holding a formation, holding together in safety with numbers. Watch the grace, watch the beauty, watch that oneness, that completeness of moving in synchrony. Let yourself just be swept away, hypnotized, magnetized to this reflection of where we are in time. This reflection of how we too need to hold our formation, hold this murmuration of our species, moving together as one in our discipline of staying physically distant, but not emotionally or socially isolated. The physics of this phenomenon is that each bird is aware of 7 birds around it. So we too can keep in constant connection and communication with our 7 starlings, our 7 birds around us. Whether that's family, friends, colleagues, people you know who might need a hand, your neighbors, the elderly. Let's stay in unison. Let's stay in oneness. Let's hold our formation as long as we need, knowing that we will eventually return, as the birds do, back to the trees, back to the ground, back to our nests. Allowing yourself to keep this visual, keep this metaphor when you need it, when you need to stay disciplined, when you feel frustrated or bored. Just come back to this mirroring of nature, this acceptance of this moment in time, and this surrender. Allowing your attention to float back into your body, to float back into your eyes, into your neck, into your shoulders, your arms, your belly, your legs, and into your feet. Taking a nice long inhale, cleansing exhale, and opening the eyes as and when you're ready, returning a little lighter, a little calmer, and a little more balanced.
Did you need that? Were you able to take a deep breath and settle in, drop in, find some stillness? And isn't that so awesome, that the image of how did those starlings do that together? One starling watched the 7 other birds around them, and each one watched the 7 other birds around them. It's how they stayed together. You might feel a bit isolated or disconnected during this time. Who are those 7 people who you can look out for? You can say, those are the ones that I'm connected to, I'm protecting, they're protecting me, we move in this thing together. Who are those relationships in your life? Thank you, Gargi, for leading us through that time of quiet and stillness and meditation. All right, y'all, we live in this really interesting time in history where our lives have been severely disrupted in an instant. where it is no longer acceptable to gather, where we can no longer, at least for this time, we can no longer be together face to face in person. And it happened quickly, didn't it? Because remember, it was just like 3 weeks ago when you guys were at parties and gatherings and you were giving each other hugs and high fives and fist bumps and belly bumps and whatever else y'all do. And then this comes along, and we live in this really interesting time where you can so easily feel disconnected. And so I want to reflect with you all for a bit. And I want you to recall those moments in your life when something that mattered to you found a way to matter even more. Like parents, do you remember when you held your baby for the first time and you looked into their eyes? And you might have even grabbed their hands and you remember how little their fingers were. How does that happen? And in that moment, you realized just how sacred life really is. Or maybe it was when you were driving down the highway and you passed by a bad car accident. And all of a sudden, in that moment, the people in the car with you, they found a way to matter to you even more, because in that moment, you realized just how fragile life really is. You realized that things could change in an instant. Or maybe you remember the time when someone that you loved extended to you a word of grace and forgiveness. And that moment stays with you because you remember thinking to yourself, I don't deserve this. But this happened so freely, and you remember thinking how much beauty in that moment there was in the world and in other people. It's the moments that have a way of showing us that our lives are profoundly interconnected and all of this matters. You know, when I was growing up from about high school, my high school years on, my very best friend in the world was my grandpa, who I called Pawpaw. We called him Pawpaw. And in fact, in high school during those years, every Thursday morning I would get up with the sunrise and I would go over to my grandma and grandpa's house and they would make breakfast, and then me and Pawpaw would usually go down to the basement and he would do a little meditation. We would have some quiet time together. We would pray for one another, and sometimes on those mornings I actually made it on time to class. My Pawpaw was the best man in our wedding. Throughout college and seminary, we talked every single day on the phone without fail. And see, y'all, I remember walking into one of my seminary classrooms, and Mom called and she said, Ryan, you need to know that Pawpaw was just diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, 69 years old, and he's only given 3 months left to live. And I went home that afternoon, and I walked into our little one-bedroom apartment that Tammy and I had at that time. And I picked up the phone and my hands were shaking. And for the first time in my life, I did not know what to say to my best friend. And I talked to him every day. Because it was like in that moment, I knew this relationship matters. This moment matters. And see, I think these moments, they're happening to us and around us all the time. It's just a matter of us being aware. You know, even just a couple of weeks ago, when we made the decision to close the literal doors here at Free, and the heaviness that came with that. And it was one of those decisions, and we were all doing this together. If you think back, it seems like a lifetime ago, but just a couple of weeks ago when new information was constantly coming out, we were being forced to make quick decisions. I was on phone calls with the governor, and we were getting information from the bishop, and new information was coming to us all the time. And I remember that morning coming into Free, and there was our 9:30 12-step meeting, and telling them that we were closing the doors tomorrow afternoon so that tomorrow morning would be the last meeting here until further notice. And the heaviness that came with that, the fear, the disappointment. I mean, it was palpable in the room. You could taste it. And it was the fear because we know how important these 12-step groups are. We know that they save lives. My life is one of them, saved by 12-step meetings. And so it was the fear of not only is it important for people in recovery, but especially people new in recovery, new to sobriety. And at the end of the meeting, I remember walking back to the kitchen to get another cup of coffee. It was towards the end of the meeting, and my buddy Johnny was there. And I said to Johnny, man, I was shaking my head, and I said, man, I don't know, are we doing the right thing? And you know what Johnny did? He laughed at me. He laughed at me, and he said these words. He said, I don't know. What would Jesus do? And then he walked away. And I'm like, dude, not helpful. Not at all helpful. I went home, and I was on the phone most of the rest of the morning, and I got home. It was a beautiful sunny day. Me and my wife, Tammy, we went out to the back patio, and we were sitting outside, and the phone rings, and it was Johnny. Hello? You know what Johnny said? He said, Ryan, I think what you were asking me earlier today is, will I still like you even if I don't agree with you? And I said, you know what, Johnny, you're absolutely right. That is what I was asking you. And I don't know, maybe y'all can identify with this, but I have this character defect that likes to creep up. And this character defect likes to lie to me and tell me that my number one job is to get you to like me. Do whatever it takes to make sure that you like me, because what I need is your approval. And you know what Johnny said to me? Right after that, he said, Ryan, here's what you need to know. I am going to love you no matter what. And y'all, I can't tell you the burden that was lifted in that moment. I can't tell you the lightness that came with that and what that meant to me. It was one of those times where it was like, this moment matters. And see, did y'all know my last drink of alcohol was on January 6th of 2013. And it was much like any other day. On that Sunday night, I drank alone, by myself, passed out on the couch. And the next morning was a Monday morning, January 7th, and this morning was very different. I was passed out on the couch, and Tammy, my wife, she came down the stairs. The sun was rising, and she was getting ready for work. And when she came down, she was holding one of my empty liquor bottles, a bottle that I thought I'd hidden well enough. Had bottles hidden all over the house. But this morning was different, because when she came down the stairs holding that empty liquor bottle, she had tears flowing down her face. And she said to me, Ryan, what are we going to do? And guys, she might have said that 100 other times, but on this time, because of that gift that God gave me, the gift of desperation, and I was absolutely desperate, I heard that word we. And I knew in that moment that I was not alone. And it was one of those times in my life where, looking back on it, it was like, yeah, this relationship matters. This moment matters. You see, it's the moment when something that matters to you finds a way to matter even more. And so I want to share with you all a word to describe these experiences, because I know you have these experiences too. And the word I want to share with you, it's an ancient Hebrew word, and it's this word kavod. K-A-V-O-D. Say that word with me, kavod. And come on now. I know you're in your living room, and I know this is going to be awkward, so get awkward with me. I want you to shout this word out, kavod. Come on now, kavod. Kavod. Yes, kavod. Now here's the deal with this word kavod. It's an ancient Hebrew term. The ancient Hebrew people, or the people of the Old Testament, when you're looking at the scriptures, the Old Testament or the ancient Hebrew people, they had a word that they referred to for this deep awareness of the significance of things, and it was this word kavod. And this word kavod comes along and says to us that our lives are profoundly interconnected. God is moving through all of this, and that's why all of this matters. Now, one of my favorite authors, his name is Rob Bell. And just like I did with Brene Brown last week, I want to highly recommend that you read everything he writes. One of his books is called What We Talk About When We Talk About God. And in this book, he goes deeper into this theme of kavod. And here's what he says about kavod. Here's what he says about kavod. Kavod was originally a business term. I think we have it on the screen. Do we have it on the screen? Hold on. There we go. We got to get rid of Danny's face there. All right, here's what Rob Bell says. Kavod was originally a business term referring to the heaviness of something which was important in weights and measures and the maintaining of fairness in transactions. Over time, the word began to take on a more figurative meaning, referring to the importance and significance of something. Interesting, isn't it? Because see, in the Old Testament, sometimes this word is referred to, it's translated as heavy. And it's in a negative sense, like to describe oppressive circumstances or carrying around heavy burdens of guilt. And other times in the Old Testament, it's described in the more positive sense. And when it's done this way, you'll usually see the word translated as glory. Like in this Old Testament book called First Chronicles in chapter 16, where David is standing next to the Ark of the Covenant, and he begins to pray. And right in the middle of his prayer, in the Ark of the Covenant, this is where God resided, this is where God was. And he starts to pray, and right in the middle of the prayer, he stops and he says, "Declare God's glory." It's like David stops and says to everyone around him through this prayer that y'all need to pay attention, because what's happening here is significant. This moment matters, and you don't want to miss it. And you've had moments like these, right? You've had moments where you stop and say to yourself, and maybe to everyone around you, this moment matters and I don't want to miss it. This moment is significant. It's the moments where you realize our lives with each other, our lives with God, they're profoundly interconnected, and there's more going on just beneath the surface. And so I want to ask y'all, where are you experiencing kavod? In a time where our lives have been severely disrupted in an instant, where we can't gather face to face, where we are literally being encouraged to stay at home. Where are these moments popping up for you? Where are these relationships popping up for you? Where have you found yourself saying, wait a minute, this moment matters. This relationship matters. During this time of the coronavirus, are you recognizing the importance of these relationships in your life? You know, there's this beautiful story. It's found in the New Testament, Mark's Gospel, and it's a story about Jesus and this woman and these disciples, these people who have been following Jesus, these students of Jesus. And this story is found in Mark chapter 14. And see, the backstory to the verses we're not going to read together. I'm just going to read a few verses with you in just a moment. But the first couple of verses that we won't read, it's about the political and religious leaders of the day gathering together to plot against Jesus, to plot his death. And then you get these verses 3 through 9, which I'll read with you in just a moment. But then right after that, you get some verses that tell us that the religious and political leaders of the day, they were actually quite successful in their plotting. And they did indeed put Jesus on a Roman execution stake known as a cross. But see, right in the middle of this story of death and dying and suffering, you get this. I want to read it with y'all. While he was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment of nard, and she broke open the jar and poured the ointment on his head. But some were there who said to one another in anger, "Why?" And by the way, these are the disciples who were saying this. Jesus' closest friends are the ones saying this. "Why was the ointment wasted in this way? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and the money given to the poor." And they scolded her, but Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has performed a good service for me, for you always have the poor with you, and you can show kindness to them whenever you wish, but you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for its burial," which, by the way, is a ancient Jewish custom. "Truly I tell you, wherever the good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her." Now, real quick, two things stand out to me in this story. The first is, it's Jesus' disciples, the ones who are closest to him, the ones who have been following him throughout his journey for the last couple of years. They are the ones who completely miss it. They miss what God is doing right in front of them, and maybe there's a word there for us. You can be a good religious person. You can attend church every single week, and you can memorize the scriptures backwards and forwards, and yet you can still miss what God is doing right in front of you. And see, the second thing that stands out to me in this story, it's this line in Mark's gospel. And by the way, this story is told in all four gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But Mark is the only one who includes this detail, and it's that line, "And she broke open the jar and poured the ointment on his head." See, I think Mark might include this detail because he's giving us this subtle reminder that beauty is found in the brokenness. I mean, this story is surrounded by the larger plot of death and dying and suffering, the plot to kill Jesus. And right in the middle, you get this story of something really beautiful happening, something new happening. And see, the truth is, your story, when you look at your story this week, it might seem like it's filled with all kinds of brokenness. I mean, the coronavirus hit, and it was this sudden thing. It came in an instant, and your life is turned upside down. And I've talked to so many of you. I know that some of you are battling family struggles, family challenges, and having the kids home and teaching them school, and job loss. And your future's not certain. What tomorrow holds is not at all certain, and fear can set in, and the anxiety can set in that we talked about 2 weeks ago. And yet what this story says is pay attention, because there is beauty found in the brokenness. In fact, God does God's best work right in the midst of brokenness. And Jesus got this, didn't he? I mean, can't you imagine Jesus saying to those disciples, "Hey, y'all, you're missing it. Don't you see that this relationship matters? What's happening here right in front of you matters. This moment matters, and you're missing it because you're going on as life as usual. And you're not slowing down enough to see what God is doing right in front of you." I mean, maybe the call to action right now is to simply slow down and embrace what is happening. My free brothers and sisters, what are you missing along the way during this time? Or let me ask it differently. Who are you missing along the way? And where will you experience those kavod moments this week? Where you say, this moment matters. This relationship matters. Kavod. Our lives are profoundly interconnected, and God is moving through all of this, and all of this matters. I want to take a moment and just check in with you all to see where you're at. And I'm told Facebook is experiencing maybe a bit of a problem. Danny, are we still having the problem of comments? No. I just want to take a moment and take a breath and see where your head's at, where your heart's at. My grandma says, "I was given an alabaster egg from Egypt. This verse is why I value that gift." How cool is that? I can't see many other comments. For some reason, I can only see who's watching. Danny, any comments I should be aware of? Questions, observations, comments, concerns? Yeah, Amanda, I think we all are. And yeah, we're trying to find those moments during this time. And I think what happens is when those moments happen, because I think they happen actually all the time, like daily, and we've got to name them. We've got to articulate them. We've got to kavod them. When we see them, say, yeah, that's kavod. This moment matters. And what I found is usually they're really simple moments. The moments of, like, in my life, the way it shows up is every morning the kids jumping in our bed. And we get to snuggle together in the mornings. Don't we, Selah? We get to snuggle, have coffee together. Those are beautiful moments that we could so often take for granted. Those are kavod moments. This moment matters. What's happening here matters. These relationships matter. Heather says, lean into your limitations and God. Yes, Heather, thank you for sharing that with me today. That's where the sweet spot is found, when we lean into what's happening. We lean into what we can't do right now. The limitations are good. They remind us that ego can get in the way. Ego wants to lie to us and tell us we can do it all. And we have to be reminded that limitations are our friends. Since I've been home this last week, I've been more creative than I had been in the 3 weeks prior. John Wagner, thanks for sharing that with us. I hope you're doing a lot of writing. I know you're a writer. And I've heard from some of you writers, you're getting creative along the way. How awesome is that? You have maybe more time to put some creative energy into things that you put on the back burner. Kavod moments. This moment matters. All right, y'all, keep the comments coming in. God does his best work in the brokenness. Yes, Gina, thank you for that. I want to bring Tammy up here to the front. So here's the deal, y'all. Tony G, if you're watching, when things calm down a bit, I definitely want you to come back and join us because, man, my brother Tony has so much good to say about relationships and connecting and recovery. And he's written these beautiful journals that we actually have been using with the kids. The kids have been, I hope you guys are doing this, keeping gratitude list on a daily basis. Our kids get up at 9:30 and they get up before that, but they start making their gratitude list at 9:30. Thanks to the beautiful Tammy for instilling that practice and putting that on a schedule. But here's the deal. Tammy is a bit nervous right now, she said. She only had like 20 minutes to think about what she wanted to say. And
it was a bit unexpected, I'd say.
Unexpected, but
here we are.
I mean, how perfect is the metaphor? This whole thing is unexpected. Us being here with no people in the room is unexpected. Fair. So I want, we're always getting questions. People want to know what it was like for Tammy. I've shared my recovery story in several gatherings with many, many people, and they always ask the same questions. Yeah, but we want to know about your wife, which she's the true star in the family. We want to know about Tammy. And she's got so much good to say. She's a quieter soul, but she does these wisdom bombs all the time. So I'm so glad this spur of the moment you get to hear from her. And so I promised her I would ask her some questions along the way. We're not gonna be nervous about this because we're in people's living rooms. This is a living room conversation.
Gosh.
So show Tammy some love, y'all. Give her some love. But what I know about this community is we have so many loved ones of the addicts. So we have addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And Tammy is truly, she identifies as the loved one of an addict. Tam, tell us what it was like for you. People ask me this. What was it like for Tammy when I was in the height of my addiction?
Well, let's start with denial. I think that's the biggest word that I need to share because that's truly where I found myself for a really long time, for years. So denial would be the best word to describe, during and going throughout the whole process of the years. I was lost. And I have to weave this in, but my Enneagram number is a type 9. So if any of you fellow 9s are out there and you're a peacemaker, you'll totally hear me on this. I could be really angry and really fearful of what the future held for us in our relationship, but I could go to bed and I could forget it and I could start fresh in the morning. It might sound totally bonkers to the other people that are like, no, you have to face it head on and you deal with it, exterior or interior, but I would just shut down, turn it off, and then start fresh. So that was how I dealt with it for a really long time. As things continued to surface, my anger started to bubble up. That anger that is really true to who I am as a type 9 as well. Peacemaker, you would never know. But the anger
what
was
were
there.
You, like, help people understand what you were angry about, because I think a lot of people resonate with that. So
yeah.
Articulate that anger.
Well, and it was unvoiced anger, if that makes sense too. But it was I felt a lot of manipulation and lying, but sometimes I couldn't pinpoint it or catch you doing it, and the truth wouldn't really come to the surface. So I felt like I was going crazy. I would find liquor bottles, and I would be going to bed so I could get up and work. Ryan was in seminary for a big part of this, And I would go to bed and wake up in the morning and the liquor bottles had a good dent in them. So I started marking the bottles with a permanent marker, and maybe you guys can relate to this, because I truly thought, am I losing my mind? Because he's telling me he's not drinking, but he was. So I had to find out for myself by marking these bottles. So that was really...
You know, the words, when we were talking just a few minutes ago, the words you used with me is you felt lonely, disconnected, and ashamed. And then you said, oh my goodness, do you remember the cruise ship?
The cruise ship, oh my.
But help people understand the loneliness and the disconnectedness and the shame that comes with that. Yeah,
well, there's a lot of feelings that, like I said, went unexplored for a really long time. So I don't even think on the cruise ship, if you've been on a cruise ship, they have the parties and the captain's parties and the dance parties. So we did all of those things. And between all the movements, a normal person, a normal drinker, a normie, as I've learned in these doors, in these walls of free, I had one, maybe two. By the time we were going to dinner, everybody that was in the group with our family that went on this cruise ship was doing totally fine, and we're looking forward to our dinner. So we're going down the staircase, and guess who fell down the staircase? Ryan Canaday. And it was utter embarrassment. Like, I wanted to go into the corner and bury my head, and I didn't even know how to talk about it. Couldn't even get through dinner. It was awful. And maybe you guys have had those experiences too. But so much shame. It's like I didn't even know.
Yeah, and I know just now looking back that you worked really hard. You learned to do this together almost as a team when you have the addict and a loved one of the addict. I had this expectation of Tammy that she would protect me. She would keep this secret for me and with me. And you did some of that. You did some secret keeping with me, and the shame that brings, because not only do I have this big secret I don't want people to know about, I'm going to put this on her and expect her to carry this secret with me.
Yeah. I did a lot of that for myself too. But
yeah, that's right. That's
sure.
right. Do you have more to say about that?
I think that truly just speaks in and of itself.
The secret keeping.
And for me, the shutting down. For me, it was easier to just stay quiet than to try to find the words to explain it. And truly, the disease of alcoholism, it was so foreign to me.
Let's come back to that,
okay.
Because I want people to hear first. You said that you came to a bottom, and in the rooms of recovery, you'll often hear people talk about a bottom, and loved ones of addicts have those bottoms too. So help people understand what that bottom looked like for you. I know you were, when I got sober, you were 8 months pregnant with our second daughter, Shiloh.
Yeah, we have 4 kids now. So that was when we were just about to have Shiloh. I was 8 months pregnant. So a lot happened within this time frame, but I remember going up to Ryan, laying on that couch, and just feeling totally helpless. Like, and I remember having this conversation with him, if you are too drunk to drive me to the hospital when I go into labor and I have to call my sister, I have to call a friend, it's a deal breaker. I don't know what that deal breaker is, but it's a deal breaker, my love.
And
I was angry.
Can I say, as an active alcoholic, I mean, my disease, my sickness is rooted in selfishness and self-centeredness. So I could hear her say that. And in my active addiction, the truth is I didn't care. I thought, you know what, that'll be your problem when you get there. I may or may not be, we'll have to see. I may or may not be drunk. And it didn't bother me at the time. And that's the sickness. It's not just the drink itself. It's the selfishness and self-centeredness that this creates, that this is stemming from.
But I think it was starting to bother him at the time, because it wasn't too long after that I found that last bottle. And so that was found on the heels of, and this is a great story for another day, but Ryan had just left a service that he was preaching, and I went right out of the parking lot to go home. This was a Sunday night, keep in mind. So if this speaks to any of you fellow Coloradoans, with the liquor stores closing at 6, Ryan, it was after 6 o'clock, so he went left out of the parking lot to go to the one place that was still open after 6 o'clock. When he got home, he lied to me about where he went. And so when I found that liquor bottle that he talked about with the tears flowing down my face. There were so many emotions, including I felt just betrayed and lied to, and I'm like, I've had it. What are we going to do?
Yeah, and what I know about Tammy is she doesn't get to a breaking point easily. Still in life, she doesn't. But when she gets there, she's there, and you know it. And in that moment, I knew it. And thank God for the rooms of recovery that were there when I hit my bottom, when she hit her bottom, and we could find some healing in all of this. So I want to. We just have a couple of minutes left, but one thing you mentioned is part of this denial thing was Tammy didn't have any experience with addiction or alcoholism, so it was really easy for you to truly not understand what was happening. I don't know, maybe we already covered that. Did you want to say more?
I just
about
touched
that?
on it, but the whole concept of it was foreign to me. So for me, Ryan could justify this behavior as I'm a heavy drinker, Tammy. And
I can handle a lot. I'm a big boy.
And sure, you can, and you can probably drink a lot more than me. So that was the truth that I was led to believe for a really long time.
Yeah, and so a final question. I want people to know, where did the hope and healing, what's that look like? What's it look like now? Hope and healing.
Yeah.
Where did it come?
Man, so I have to say, Ryan and I are creeping up to our 15 years of marriage. We've been together for 17 years, and I feel like we're in the best place of our marriage. We've been on a lot of highs and lows, but we're in a beautiful place in our relationship. I think that a big thing for both of us is we have done a lot of work with boundaries and with working on our own self separately and together. Yeah. So our interiors, and then what does that look like as a couple? Ryan shows up. He didn't do that before. He is present for me. He's present for our family, for our 4 kids. He is present for this community, for our free family. And that connection is huge. That speaks volumes.
I mean, sobriety gave me my life back. I often say, I get to be now. And I use the word get to be because it's a gift. And I realize the gift God has given me, and I get to give that gift back. I get to be present as a pops. I get to be present as a husband. And we have this marriage that's strong and firm, and she's a rock in my life. And I get to be present as a pastor here at Free, and I get to show up in life. I get to sleep with my wife again. When I was drunk and passed out on the couch, I was on the couch by myself. What kind of life is that? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I get to do this thing now. And I would say we trust each other again. Trust was broken. Trust was lost. And there's this trust that we have. And did you want to say a word about Spark and Substance and sacrifice?
There's a book that we read together, Zimzum. And
Zimzum of Love.
And it so beautifully puts it about a relationship that you start with a spark, and then the spark moves to substance. And I feel like those things were really easy for us to get to, especially the substance piece. When I was working full-time and supporting Ryan while he was getting his master's, we made it a point through our counseling and the conversations that we were going to stay connected and have conversations every single night about what I was doing and what he was doing in school. So the substance for us, I feel like that's always been something we've always had. It was a sacrifice. That last S, that sacrifice, that was tricky for him and I to arrive at. But man, when you get those 3 S's, the spark, then the substance, and then you end with the sacrifice, I'm telling you folks, it's a beautiful place to arrive in a relationship, and you know you have something really special.
Yeah, and you know, people ask Tammy all the time. They ask me all the time, well, why did Tammy stay? And I won't speak for you. I just know there was a lot of grace in that, and you know, and I think we can both say that this is not a one size fits all. Not everyone should stay. God worked in our lives and our marriage in incredible ways, but that's not to say everyone should stay. But it's a question that you commonly hear. Well, why'd you stay?
Well, we've had a lot of grace for one another. Let's just say that. It goes 2 ways. It's a relationship. It's not just Tammy having grace for Ryan. Ryan also has a lot of grace for Tammy as well. But it's a big question. There's a lot of different ways that I could answer that. But I could easily say I love him. I do. I love him a lot. But again, for me, in the way that I was raised and the values that I had, it for me wasn't an option. I thought, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to push through to stay with this man and give him 100+% to stay in this thing. And I guess it boils down to a value and then some of my history growing up as well.
Yeah. All right, guys, here's what we do with every storyteller in our midst. And again, Tammy was a last minute. I'm so glad she was here, though, because I think you all need to know Tammy more because she's got so much to offer in this community. And I'm so glad you were here tonight. Thank you, honey. If you have questions for her, we will later tonight. We'll go home and respond. She'll respond to some of your questions, maybe even now. I know there's a bit of a glitch with Facebook right now, but we will respond. She will respond to your questions, your comments. So keep them coming for Tammy. And you can always reach out to her on Facebook. You can friend her there if you want to send a private message, or you can do it on her free page.
I think that's it. Such an important thing is when we started.
Did you see what Monica said? So glad I'm not alone. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome, my friend.
That's why she's here.
Yeah, and that's why we do free. And
yes,
when Ryan said, I have this crazy idea to start free, and I'm thinking it's going to be a place for addicts and loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees. I said, I'm in. Let's do it. It was something that I felt, again, that we could be connected with one another in, and we work pretty good together. We say 98% of the time we do pretty good work together and we like each other. So we're thrilled to be doing this with you guys, with this community, and with all of you.
We get to do this free community together. How awesome is that?
We're grateful. We're grateful.
All right. Thank you, Tammy. Show her some love. She's out. Thank you, honey. What we want to do with you all now, or you can stay up here with me if you want.
Okay.
You should. She's going to stay with me. How about that? You know, we've been checking in with you along the way. Keep comments coming or questions coming. If you have questions about anything we explored tonight, questions or comments about anything we explored tonight. Monica says, as my children grew up and shared memories of my husband and me drinking, I was devastated by what they remembered and hurt because I hurt them. Yeah, Monica, I think what you just said, so many of us in recovery can relate with. The pain that's caused when we find out we affected our children by this, and the ones we love most, our spouses, our family members, our friends. Yeah, that comes with some real pain, and we get to actually in recovery face that pain and walk through that pain and then not shut the door on our past and pain. Matt Davis says, my son spoke the same words. He also shared the most healing was seeing his father win the battle against alcoholism. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. Awesome. How beautiful is that? Kavod, that moment matters, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move into our time. You know, the way we end things at Free is we start with celebrations because in this community, the truth is we face a lot of heartaches. We hear them every week when we gather together with 120, 140 people in this space, and we voice and articulate those heartaches together. And again, there is something so powerful. God is in the midst of that when we lift these things up to God. And we always say that we are a community together. We do it together. And we have a prayer team. Jason McKissick leads this prayer team. Thank you, Jason. I believe you're on right now. Thank you for leading this prayer team. We pray for you guys throughout the week. I know there are others in this community praying for you throughout the week, calling each other. I just heard from someone tonight. She's got a conversation lined up with someone tomorrow who's struggling in this community, and that is what we do. But in order to know what those struggles are and how to pray for you, what those battles are that you're facing, well, you got to voice them. And I know we're online and it can be a bit uncomfortable, but I'm again encouraging you to, during this 3-minute video, you'll again see some familiar faces, so I hope you're enjoying that. You'll hear some music, and during these 3 minutes, lift up your heartaches, the burdens that you're carrying, so that we can be encouraging one another, texting one another, calling one another, praying for one another. So you got 3 minutes, type in your heartaches, and then we'll come back together.
What's up, guys? It's Drew. Hey, Free family. Just want to extend a heartache and some prayer out to those who are still suffering from disconnection and isolation. It's a tough time for us all, but for those of us, who don't maybe have someone to go home to every night, it's tough, so I'd really like to extend some love out to them.
I just want to pray for all the teachers because they've been doing such hard work, and I hope you pray for them too. I hope that all of the students in school are healthy and safe.
For heartaches to keep all the small business owners and their families in your prayers. Shane and I own 3 small businesses, and basically everything is gone for work for us until about May. And we're fortunate enough that we've done well for ourselves and that we've managed to save, and we'll be fine for the next couple of months. But there are a lot of people out there, a lot of friends of ours that have small businesses that are taking some pretty hard times and are hurting pretty bad. So just keep all the small business owners and those that are affected by this with business in your prayers.
Matt here. I want to take a quick second to ask you to lift up our hearts and our thoughts and prayers to everybody that's sick and hurting right now. I know Corona's at the forefront, but mental illness, addiction, it's all still out there. And so let's keep just lift up our hearts and prayers to everybody that's sick and hurting right now. Thank you.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I was just reading through some of your comments, some of your prayers, some of your heartaches. So I think we're going to have a few of them on screen. Let's read a few of them together so that we can lift one another up. Jordan, I'm glad you're here, by the way. Jordan says prayers for Eric to have the desperation that Ryan had to turn his life around legitimately. Prayers for you, Jordan. I know it's the struggle, it's the battle of being the loved one of the addict. So prayers for you, Jordan. Eric, brother Eric, I'm praying for you too, man. Life can be better. Jason, praying every day for the Free Tribe. I know you are, Jason. I love you, dude. I'm so glad you lead our prayer team, and he takes this stuff seriously. Thank you, Jason. Amanda says a friend has relapsed. Pray for him to get help and keep trying. Amanda, we're going to pray for your friend. He is added to the list. And by the way, even if we don't get all your comments on the screen, we will go through this tomorrow and you will be added to the prayer list. So you can keep them coming even after this live episode is over. You can keep them coming throughout the week. Tom, Sergeant Major says, please pray for my son and his wife. Tom, we will be praying for your son and his wife. Absolutely. Ben, we lost my cousin Jeff yesterday. He was an alcoholic and suffered. Yeah, so sorry to hear that, Ben. I should also mention I lost a friend this week to a drug overdose, and we in this community we know lots of people who want to get clean, they want to get sober, but it actually takes work, and if you're not willing to do the work, man, the worst can happen. So prayers for you, Ben. Prayers for your friend's family. Jill says prayers of health and safety to all the healthcare workers and everyone else who are helping in this time of need. Much love to all. Yes, Jill, thank you for lifting them up. We lift them up together. God, hear our prayers. MJ says, please pray for my daughter to continue her sobriety. She's about 100 days. Congratulations. And also prayers. Teresa, She says, I feel I may have hit the bottom of my relationship. Well, I fear the bottom for my addicted child will be death. So much guilt feeling this way. Prayers for you, Teresa. And if you're listening right now and you're in this community and you've had that experience, please reach out to Teresa and show her some love. This is what being community is about, guys. All right, let's take a couple more. Tina says, prayer for the kiddos who don't have present parents in this time. Absolutely. Thank you for lifting them up, Tina. Prayers for them. Melissa says, I went into this quarantine mess already struggling with a breakup and a relapse after 2 years sober. Today is day 1 for me without drinking alone in my closet. It's painful and uncomfortable. Melissa, keep coming back. It gets better. Sobriety, recovery gets better. Prayers for you in this journey, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're in this community. AK Summers, Andrea says, my youngest brother is the beginning of a rather long incarceration due largely to addiction. He has 2 beautiful children we're working to support along with my parents as this new normal takes hold. All prayers for support as we navigate this together from a great distance are so appreciated. We will be praying for your youngest brother and you and your family going through this time. As Tammy just described, we know that, man, that's a heavy time. So thank you for sharing that with this community. I'm glad you've been tuning in all the way from Austin, Texas. So welcome to you, and I think your husband also joins in. Welcome to you guys, and we're going to be praying for you guys this week. One more. Wendy says, prayers to many small businesses and employees like myself living in an unknown future, if we have jobs or not. Scary time financially. Yes, thank you for lifting them up. Wendy and Brother Lou lifted them up earlier this evening. Let's keep lifting them up together. And we do have one more. Amy says, I struggle with my own boundaries as a loved one of an addict. Please pray for me to keep my strength so we can continue to heal and not fall back on old routines. Prayers for you, Amy. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. They are so important. For those of you that have been there and know what Amy's talking about, please reach out to her with all kinds of love and support. I know y'all are in this community and you'll do that. Guys, I'm so honored to be your pastor during these days. I'm so honored to be the pastor of this community and to be able to do these celebrations and heartaches with you, to be able to do life together. It is such an honor. I love y'all. I miss y'all. When I see these comments, I'm reminded of how many of your faces that I miss and love. So I'm glad we get to join in online and be community. This is our time where we will, should I talk about the wagon? Yeah. Let me tell you just really briefly about the wagon. And I know it's 8:17. We end things by 8:15, but we'll be done in 2 minutes, I promise. The wagon is a central image in this free community, and it's a central image. It sits up front, and you'll see it different places scattered throughout free. The reason the wagon is our central image, and it's been with us since day 1 when we started this thing in our backyard 2 summers ago. It's a central image because a few years ago I was at the LA Rescue Mission, the largest rescue mission in the country, and we were getting a tour by the executive director. He took us up to one of the top floors where their memorabilia is and the pictures on their wall. And on one of the biggest pictures in the center of the wall was this picture of a wagon. And I said, dude, what's the story with the picture with the wagon? And he said, man, you don't know about the wagon? And I said, no, tell me about the wagon. He said, that's how this place started. That's how we started. Back in the late 1800s, this wagon would go into the roughest parts of LA in the evenings, and they would distribute things like food and clothing and hope and Bibles and more stuff. And then they would welcome anyone who wants to get on the wagon to get on, because they knew where they were headed, a place of safety and recovery, a place of healing. Now, what happens when you get a bunch of drunk people on a wagon? They fall off the wagon, which was mind-blowing for me. And I was like, dude, is that where that phrase comes from? Is that where that comes from, falling off the wagon? He said, yes, that's where that comes from. Now, when they would fall off, this wagon would stop. And the sober ones would help the drunk ones back on, because they knew where they were headed, a place of recovery and healing and connection. And when I heard this story, I thought, man, that is community at its best. That is the church at its best. That's who we want to be. So the wagon is a central image. We at Free, we do not do shame in this community. We do not kick our wounded. We welcome people back on. I don't care if you're on day 1 or day of 10,000. You are welcome in this community because together we are headed to places of recovery and healing and spiritual connection. That's who we are here at Free. Free. So I want to invite you all to join with me in our prayer together. We close every evening with prayer and we say it together. We change it up each evening, but this evening we're going to do the Serenity Prayer. It is one of my favorite prayers. I think we need this prayer during these days especially. So it's on the screen. Say it with me now. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Grace and peace to you, our free brothers and sisters. Reach out to one another this week. Connect with one another this week. And when you see those moments where you're thinking to yourself, man, this matters. This relationship matters. Remember, kavod. God is working through all of this. All of this matters. Today, may you go in grace and peace. Love y'all.